All right, this is part 2 of the PowerPoint on Egyptian gods, and we're going to go to the temple of Abu Simbel. Abu Simbel is interesting because it's not named after a location. The other ones are named after the cities that the temples are found in, but Abu Simbel was named after a boy. What happened was these discoverers in the early 1800s were going along the Nile exploring it, and they ran into a boy, and the boy told them about this temple that was hidden up along the Nile, and he took them, he guided them to this temple that they found, and so they named the temple after him. It's called the Temple of Abu Simbel. Okay? And it is here, so let me give you a better representation. So here's Cairo and Giza. This is where the pyramids are. Remember, all the pyramids are down in this part of the Nile. But the temples that we're talking about are up here. So the first one we talked about was the Temple of Edfu, right here. And now we're up here to Abu Simbel, way, way up here. Okay? And so this is way up at the southern boundary of Egypt. In fact, this boundary has been moving over time. It would change depending on encroachments from people, and they'd have battles and stuff. But this is where the battle is now. Now the Nile, you see, flows north here, flows down from the Central Africa there, from the mountains in Central Africa. Longest river in the world. But it's dammed right here. This is called Lake Nasser. They dammed it and they call it the Aswan Dam. This was way back in like the 40s and 50s. Huge project. It used to be, it changed everything, because remember, the Nile would flood every spring, and when it flooded it would overflow its bank, but that was a good thing because then it brought fertile soil down, and that would overflow, and then when the floodwaters receded, that's where they would plant the crops, and so they would look forward to that every year, a very special time. But once they dammed it, now that doesn't occur. The Nile just stays the same, and now they have cities and everything built right up to the edge of the Nile because they don't have to worry about it overflowing. It also gets lots of power, electrical power from the dam as well. But here's Abu Simbel way up here. But because it was discovered in the 1800s, you see, this is a museum of it. It shows the temple was actually down here. This is the original temple. But when they dammed the Nile, they realized the whole thing was going to be underwater, and they didn't want it destroyed. So what they did is they took all the temples, it's actually two parts to it, this part and this part, and they moved them piece by piece in the exact same position that they were up to higher ground, so it would be above the lake. So they moved the temples piece by piece, kept them in the same configuration, and just moved them up so they wouldn't end up being lost when they dammed up the Nile River. So here they are. So these temples were built by Ramses II. Ramses II was one of the greatest builders of all the Egyptian empires. He built many temples, just did lots of projects that are left behind. In fact, he's probably the most prominent builder of all of the Egyptian pharaohs. All four of these are Ramses II. Okay? But you see in the middle here, this is Horus. So this is this temple to Horus. And there's an inside to the temple. These parts laying down here came off of this statue right here, so they had fallen down. The temple here, and you see more things to look at here. These are females here. These are his wives, and his servants, and his mother, and others, and they're represented smaller because of their relative stature as compared to the pharaoh. Okay, and then here you see Hathor up here. You see the people paying homage to Hathor. That's what this temple is for. Ramses is saying, "Oh, Horus, be good to me because I'm a pharaoh and I'm building this temple to praise you." We also see, so remember there were two of them, the one next to it here, this was also built by Ramses II, okay, and this is Ramses II again, but the interesting thing is he built it to his queen, his favorite queen, Nefertari. Different than Nefertiti, don't get confused, this is Nefertari. Nefertari, but he made her full size, which rarely they do. So what he's saying is that she was equal in stature to him. So this is her here and here. This also has an inside as well. Up above the temple of Ramses, there are baboons. These baboons are worshiping the rising sun. They face east to worship the rising sun. And there are 20 of them. All right, now inside the temple, there are statues of many of the Egyptian gods. There's a whole bunch of gods, about 20 of the main gods are inside this building. And inside of it, and it is made or lined up so that on October 20th and February 20th, rays of the sun would go all the way to the back wall, illuminating the interior of it, so that the sun would come in through the front and all of the gods would get lit up on that day, except for one, the statue of Ptah, I think, Ptah, it's P-T-A-H, who was the god of the underworld, and he was always supposed to be in darkness, so he was put around a corner so that the sunlight would not hit him. But all the other gods are lit up on that day. All right. This is the gods. This is Horus, and this is Thoth, and they're giving power to the Pharaoh, helping him to rule the world right here. All right. This is of papyrus, which is where our term paper comes from, and the papyrus was invented by Egypt. They had these reeds, these triangular reeds that would grow along the edge of the Nile, and they found that if they cut them into thin layers, they laid them out, crisscross them, and then put a lot of weight on them, that the plant material would bind together and it would make a piece of paper. And you can see this is what it turns out like. They would clamp it together. And so they essentially invented paper that they would paint on, and then they would create their books. Now this shows what they believe would happen to you when you died, okay? And this is important, so pay attention here. So this is the deceased person. He's there, all right? So he's in here 3 times. So the person dies. He has to first go pay homage to, guess how many gods? 14 gods. So he has to pay homage to these 14 gods, okay? And then he is brought before the weighing of the feather, or the feather of Amat. So he is brought here by Anubis, okay? And Anubis brings him to have his heart weighed. So they cut out his heart, put it on this scale, okay? The Egyptians believed the heart was what was important, because when you died, your heart stopped, okay? They didn't think the brain was important at all. In fact, when they mummified people, they would pull the brain out. They thought it was used for just heating and temperature regulation, so they would pull it out through your nostrils. But you would weigh your heart against the feather of Ma'at. And what they believed is if you were a good person and you did good deeds in your life, your heart gets lighter and lighter the more good deeds. The more bad deeds you did, the heavier your heart would get. If you do good deeds, then the feather of Ma'at weighs more than you do, than your heart does. This side would go down, and you would be then led on by Horus to his father Osiris, which is the god of the afterlife, and you would be found a place in the afterlife. All right, your name would be recorded by Thoth in the book of life, and you would live on forever. However, if you're a bad person, an evil person, and your heart was heavier than the weight of the feather, then this creature here, this creature's called Amit, would eat up your heart and you would be gone forever. So it's kind of like a final judgment. Okay, so back here, this is Osiris. This is the two sisters, Isis and Nephthys. Remember, Isis is Osiris's wife, and Osiris and Isis are Horus's father, right? And this is Horus's 4 children here, in this small spot here. So this pretty much tells what they believe will happen in the afterlife. All right, these are what's called canopic jars. The canopic jars are where when they mummified you, they would put your internal organs. Because they did realize that your internal organs would decay and go away if they just put your body in. So if they want to mummify you so you can live forever, they have to do something with the organs. So they would place different organs in different ones. They would place the stomach in the jackal-headed one, the one in the back. They'd place the intestines in the falcon-headed god, the one here. They'd place your... in the baboon one, they placed your lungs, this one back here, and your liver was placed in the human-headed one. And so with every mummification, there were these canopic jars. And that would essentially store your organs so that when you went to the afterlife, they would put you back together the normal way you would be. All right, there you go. Now you got the whole Egyptian belief, actually the very short version of Egyptian beliefs. We do know that, remember, that they were very much into astronomy, that they did astronomy to align up their pyramids, that they believed in the moon phases, and that their constellations were representation of their gods as well.